You're watching EVH Gear TV. Official Van Halen merchandise for EVH Gear TV is provided by VanHalenStore.com. Now, here's your host from Ontario, Canada, EVH Gear artist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, Friday evening, welcome to EVH Gear TV. It's been a long time coming. I've got great guitar sensation, good friend, Ian Thornley back, joining me for another return visit. How you doing, Ian?
Good. I don't know if I'm a sensation.
Oh, you're a sensation. From what the fans were saying tonight, you're a sensation. And you got to be the most humble person on the planet, so I know it's hard for you to accept that. And we're going to get into some Guitar Hero talk a little bit later on, too. But just take it. Just take it. It's Father's Day weekend. You're a sensation in more ways than one. So
Father's Day, I always look forward to, it's always the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
I always get to, on Father's Day, but I never really get to watch the final day because there's always stuff to do. And, my old man, I go over and hang out with him. I'm always kind of sneaking away to the TV to see who's in the lead,
Yeah. Speaking of which, there's a blimp that went down, right, the other day?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, over the, I guess, okay, so you tell me more about, I play golf a little bit here and there, but I don't follow the actual sport of it on TV. So has it been going on for a few days, whatever? There's something that said was in the news where a blimp went down over where the U.S. Open's being held.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have it on in the background and it's in the other room, at the other end of where I am.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like when I walk by and just sort of check the leaderboard kind of thing.
Right.
But I'm a terrible golfer. I know very, very little about it. I'm always fascinated by guys who can do things extremely well and girls who can do things extremely well.
For sure. In your line of work, do you ever hang out with some of the hockey players and things like that? Some of those guys that are really good golfers and stuff, and just kind of
occasionally. And it's all it's not much different from what I do or what we do. It's somebody who's devoted their life to something, and someone who got bit by a particular bug, and that's what you went after. So, and I can really appreciate that. I mean, some of these kids they're 21, 22, 23, and they're hitting the ball like a mile and landing it on a dime, and it's it's cool to watch. And I think it's something I've dabbled with for maybe 15 years. I'd go to a driving range and just crush the ball. And I think it's just because I'm tall that I can get away with.
I was going to ask you that. Does height have a factor?
Not straight. Straight is something that's what the good golfers do. It's sort of a therapeutic thing. And just.
I agree.
But yeah, and I love watching it. So.
It's really funny. I had nothing to talk about golf on the itinerary, but it's kind of cool that we're on it because we can go with that. One of the things I liked about golf, and I haven't golfed in a lot of years. My last set of golf clubs, my ex-wife probably owns somewhere, so I don't even own a set of golf clubs anymore. But I really enjoyed the game, and I did find it, and I know a lot of golfers are going to give me heck for saying this, but I find a good learning curve and a beginner's kind of a game. And as long as you go into it with realistic expectations, and something that I applied everything I do now in life is to golf, whether it's guitar, whether I want to learn the next guitar solo or whatever. When I started playing golf, I didn't want to go out there and shoot par on my first game, on the first hole, like par 5. I'm not going to go out there and try to get, 5. I'm going to hope for 10, on that hole. And then maybe the next time I go out, maybe the next week after I've been playing a few times, I might aim for a 7 on a par 5. You know what I mean? And so if you can apply everything in your life to that.
You're way beyond me, dude. I'd stop keeping score after about 3 holes.
Yeah.
And it's more about the sort of personal challenge of just hitting a good shot.
It's
and
discipline.
Once I get a good shot, then I'm like, this is fun.
It is.
If not, it's just like, you know what? I'm a guitar player. I'm not a golfer. What am I doing?
That's right. Let's go back and jam. Yeah. That's right. Well, we've got a bunch of people over in the chat. I'm going to say hi to them real quick. And just to let everybody know in the chat, I really appreciate everyone joining tonight. And we've got a bunch of people coming from one of your fan pages on Facebook. Phenomenal. I've got the link to that fan page in the description below if people aren't familiar with it. Someone invited me to it the other day, and I have to thank them. I've been well received there, which is nice. And I made the mistake of asking the questions tonight. Anyone have questions for Ian? And I could not keep up with it. Eventually, I had to say, guys and girls, I'm sorry. I have to draw the line here now. I can't ask all of these.
Let's hope they're all on side,
Oh yeah, it's good, and I will always take one for the team like I do on the show. If there's questions I think are better than my questions, which a lot of cases there are, I will sacrifice some of mine to get some other people. So I'm going to say hi real quickly to everyone. I won't be able to say all your comments, but I'm going to at least acknowledge you. One of our mutual friends, Access Mario's joining us, Gary Davlin, Quentin James, Brian Lott, Gabe Granado, JD Gonzalez, Joseph Burke, Carlo Santin, fellow Canadian, Dan L. Wilhite, Lyle Ketchum, The Law, Les Bellin, Chris A, Vintage Sounds, Bobby Lopez, Mike Ray, and obviously Quentin James. So I'm going to try to, if there's questions that pop up from time to time, I'll get to those. But the first question I have for you, Ian, the tour's been going good, really, really good. And I just looked at the itinerary tonight for your tour schedule, and now we're at the summertime and a lot of festival shows coming up. How do you like the festival, the outdoor venues, as opposed to the indoor arenas and you know, smaller clubs and all the indoor venues compared to the festivals?
I like them both. I like them both equally. I mean, I've been asked that before, and I always kind of arrive at the same answer, that it's, you know, they both come with their pros and cons. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I love them both equally. It's a different, usually on a festival kind of thing, our set's going to be a little more, you know, give them the hits. It's going to be sort of a broader scope from the first record till now. Mm-hmm. Of more focus on radio stuff, and because there's going to be a lot of people in the audience that aren't there particularly to see us, and I dig that, and I don't have a problem with getting behind those old tunes and getting behind songs that we played 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. I still love them, and conversely in the in like theater shows or club shows, like when we're on our own tour, we get to focus more on whatever the most recent album, and we'll go into the sort of the deeper cuts on there, and sometimes put them under the rolling pin and really stretch them out and see what they're capable of on a night-to-night basis. And you know, that audience, I think, is a lot more willing to go along for the ride with us. You know. Gotcha. And I sort of feel a certain sense of freedom there. But having said that, you know, performance-wise, I tend to, you know, if it's a big audience and a big festival, regardless of whether or not those people give a shit who you are, mm-hmm. They're still human beings there, and they want to. They're feeding
you and the vibe and
there's a certain there is an ebb and flow to you know, back and forth and sort of bi-directional energy, transfer of energy that good, you know, and you can definitely feel it when you're in front of a big bunch of people, you know.
You can. You take that to a smaller.
They're very different.
Yeah. You take that to a smaller venue, and like all of us bands started in small little clubs. You know, we could be playing for the wait staff, or we could be playing for 50 or 100 people. And there's 5 people in the audience. You're playing, you're doing your best, whatever. All of a sudden, a group of 15 people come in, and the band all of a sudden gets this energy. Okay, we're doing better now, and it is that intravenous connected to the audience, back to the band, I think.
Yeah, which is, you know, I think you never really let go of that.
No.
I'd say maybe sort of younger bands coming up these days, if they like want a TV show or something, and you know, all of a sudden they're famous, they might not have the same connection to feeling an audience out because your first show is in front of 10,000 people, you know.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a shame in a way, but you know, I won't even get into that.
No, stuff. I know what you mean, though. But yeah, it's like kind of cutting your teeth in the bars and getting next to no money, and you know, all those kind of things in a van with 6 guys and a roadie. You know, if you're lucky. Yeah. Those aren't glamorous times. I remember when I actually packed in my gig. You know, people think the rock star life is all this fun and glory, and when I finally pulled the plug on my band, I had one of those epiphanies. You know, like your life flashed me in front of your eyes, and it wasn't the rock stars and groupies and this and that. It was like coming home from Toronto at, you know, when the sun's coming up and going to work, and you're in your stink clothes, breaking down on the highway, starving. It's like, you know what? Nope, band's done. And I pulled the plug, and I've never really looked back, and I'm doing a different thing now, this thing, but I'm still connected to people like you guys and having fun. So I'm still in the industry.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I have those moments all the time. I just never pull the trigger.
I know, but I know. And the cool thing is you're a trooper, because you're always in there. Just when we think we've got the best from you, you bring something else out of left field, and obviously it's passion that you have for it. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing. You'd be either golfing, or you'd be doing maybe not golfing, but something completely different. So we are very thankful for that.
I give up on golf all the time. Like, the people around me just don't know it, but I'm like, seriously, don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And hit another bad shot.
Yeah.
Then you catch a good one, you're like, okay, it's going to be okay. But no.
I got to stop being so optimistic about it.
It's not something that comes natural to me, which is maybe why I dig the challenge. But
yeah.
As far as like, I think that the challenge is we've never made it to that level where everything's done for you, know?
Yeah.
So it always comes with a bit of, it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but it really it's not, it pales in comparison to the joy you get from playing a show. And if that's where, like, if we've hit the ceiling, I'm fine with where we're at. Like, like, money would be great. It'd be great to have some money. There's a lot of bills pile up, and a lot of sort of things outside of that part of my life going on that require a lot of extra money that it's hard to make ends meet. But that's neither here nor there. This is the path that I've sort of chosen.
Oh yeah, and that's where people have a lot of misconception. They think, okay, you got records out there, you've done, and I'm not just saying you, I'm saying musicians, period. You're rich and famous, and especially in today's society where no one's buying music anymore. It's the worst it's ever been ever.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah, and labels aren't taking a chance on you because there's no way to recoup the money. The only way they can get you to tour, and now we're seeing these things. I just saw some friends posting some things on Facebook the other day about us Canadian musicians traveling to the United States, getting even worse than it's ever been in years. Whether you're going to play a club for 50 people or you're on a television show or whatever, the cross-border stuff now is becoming absolutely insane, prohibiting a lot of smaller acts, even some bigger acts getting across. The labels can't recoup. They have to cancel some tours. It's horrible.
Yeah. It's in a state of disrepair currently, and
it is.
Hopefully, it's all getting figured out, and I hope the whole thing just sort of crumbles down, and then what's left is musicians and fans of music, and it can get back to that sort of basic thing.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember what I was watching the other day. Something where some older musician had a real problem with the term file sharing.
Okay.
And he was like, it's not fucking sharing. It's stealing. And I was like, I never really looked at it that way, but I guess so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of, it's if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing at this point. The whole thing has been going that way since whenever Napster came out and
I know
that shit. So it's sort of, if you can still play a live show and you can still get people out to your shows, then I think you're doing okay. And it's not about, obviously, like you said, it's not about selling records. Nobody's selling records, but if you can sell enough to warrant a tour and to let people know that, okay, well, if we bankroll this, so you can have a tour bus so you can get from town to town, and we're not going to be able to do it in a van and trailer.
No.
Like we used to.
That's right.
It's just not possible. We used to do like where we had one guy with us who we called the sort of tour manager, and he'd help load and stuff like that, lugging gear, but it was really about getting paid, which was like $50, and that was that was gas to get us from Philadelphia back to Boston. Or it was food, and we get into almost fist fights about like, well, I need to eat, man. I'm starving.
Yeah.
Like, those were hard times, and it's like I think about that, and it really wasn't that long ago. It's over 20 years ago now, but it sort of in my musical life, it doesn't seem that long ago. I'm still always in touch with that.
Oh, of course.
And like, when I see like some friends of mine who are doing real well, and it's just like, dude, you don't even pack up your own guitars and shit, huh? It's like that kind of thing. I'm like, I'm doing okay, because like when we go on tour, it's like I have like great techs and great people to do it with, and like I said, man, like the music sort of gives you. It sounds corny, but the music gives you what you need,
Yeah, I agree 100%. I have one. Actually, the funny thing before I go into my next question, a lot of people tonight in the Big Wreck fan group, they were asking about different. Are they going to come over here? Are they going to come over here? Are they going to come over here? And that's a perfect example. I know. Yeah, it's the money's got to get you there, and it's got to be okay. Is it warranted? Is it viable? In a lot of cases, and it's not just you. It's big bands. It's, the Van Halens, the Guns N' Roses, and bands and things like that. That you think that there's astronomical dollars in some of the bigger bands. Sure, there are some endless wallets, but there still are limits even to those things. And then on top of that, let's just say we have all the money in the world. Planning a tour is not as easy as saying, okay, Ian, do you want to do it? And you answer and speak for everybody. I know you have one of the biggest says, but it's not just up to one person to make everything work. There's coordinators, there's hospitality, there's everything. It's not as easy as saying go.
Yeah, and the other thing is I think people, and I've read some stuff online where people are like, why doesn't he come down here? Why doesn't he do that? It's like, well, it's really not that easy. It's like, come on, boys, let's go play a show.
I know, wish you could.
I wish I could.
Yeah,
that's what I'd be doing. Like, it's not like I need to sit at home and practice for another 9 hours, which is what I would do otherwise.
Yeah.
Of course I want to, but it's not. That's just not the way it works. There's a lot of things that go into it, and even if I express my want for it to the agent or to the management, like, look, I really want to go play in wherever. It's like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Do they want you there? Like more than just one or two people. It's like one or two people want you there. Well, think about that. We got to get the whole band down there. The whole band's got to get paid. The crew's got to get paid. And two people are going to show up. Yeah. I don't know. I can pack it with a bunch of really? Yeah. They're all going to want to pay enough to pay for us to get over the border, pay for visas, all the rest of it. It's like it never ends.
I know.
And I wish it wasn't that way.
I know.
But unfortunately, it is. It used to be a lot easier. You could sort of make a request or nudge your agent or management in a certain particular direction, and they'd be like, "Oh, remember that thing we talked about a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, I kind of made something happen here." So, and of course, it was when nobody had families and nobody had, all these other responsibilities that, we toured for 18 months at one point. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, all right, you just sort of, that was your life. That was your life was living in hotel rooms or, crashing on somebody's couch. Yep. It was fine. Nowadays, of course, there's a lot of things that I'm not going to miss so that I can play in front of 10 people and the bar staff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I agree with that 100%. I have one technical question. This is probably going to be the most technical question for the night, and it's something I've asked you before, but it's a good question because it baffled me, okay? And this goes back to the last time I had you on the show, and there's a lot of new fans to the show since then. And your song, which is one of my favorites, The Oath, I talked about this before. I've never heard anyone else really do the Eddie Van Halen cathedral type thing like you did, and I thought I had it pegged down how you did it, and you came up and gave me this answer how that was recorded. That just totally mind blew me. In Nicole's Notes version, can you tell us about The Oath and how you got that Van Halen-esque cathedral cello type sound with the volume and things like that?
Oh, so is that how Eddie does it with a volume?
Yeah, he does. Well, he'll actually.
I know the song you're talking about, but I'm not sure. But
yeah,
I think
he'll volume hammer, and get with the delay.
On it?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's essentially the same thing. It started with the tuning, which was like an open G, but the B string was also a G, so it was all just roots and fifths. Mm-hmm. And then just messing around, and I was playing through an old Bandmaster, and I was using the tremolo, and then I'd set the delay pedal to dotted eighth on where the tremolo was going eighths, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I just the riff was born of that, and at least the lick part.
Yes.
That just came from that. And then in the studio, when we were doing it, this is before Pro Tools or any of that shit. We were doing this stuff on tape. And that first record, we didn't really use click. We used click off the top Forrest would get the thing, and then he'd count it in, and we'd turn the click off, and then we'd sort of go from there. And so you can feel there's a sort of back and forth with the time, and which I love. I adore that. And Forrest's a fantastic drummer. It was fun to do, and we did that a lot on this last record as well. And also we did the same thing with tuners. I would never really use a tuner.
Right.
I just sort of like make sure that my guitar was in tune with itself, and then Dave would tune to me.
Totally Van Halen story. Yeah.
Yeah, any of the other guitars I would tune to the track. But with the Oaf thing, we ended up, that's the song that we did do to a click, and the only reason why was for that sound.
Yes.
Because I would do it with the bandmaster, and it would be that, and then so we got a verse and then a chorus and a verse, and then we get back to that midsection where we go and it would just be off. Because if you're off by, the 16th, you're coming in out of left field. And it's not like Pro Tools where you could just grab it and move it over.
No.
You'd be screwed. And then trying to start the tape where the thing was, it just wasn't happening. So we did it with a click. And then we fed the click into a gate.
Yep.
So something that turns the sound on and off.
Yes.
And then added the delay to that. So everything was locked in. So, and then played the song to that, and Forrest could follow the click no problem. So yeah, that's how we did it.
There you go. And to this day, every time I hear that, it's just like a Van Halen song to me. I will never get tired of hearing it. And I love your discography. I love all of it. There's certain things in my mind, and we'll probably get to some questions like this Van Halen related later, that let's stick something in a time capsule to represent the band. And maybe that's not one of your favorites, but to me, I would take that one and block it away in a time capsule. That if I said, what does Ian Thornley sound like, or what does Big Rex sound like, I'd play that. And I'm like, and then boom, and you come in with the riff after that. I think that captures you, in my opinion.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, it's a lot of fun. I occasionally I'll hear it. I don't actively go out and listen to it, listen with my earphones, and I won't listen to the song. But occasionally I'll hear it'll come on the radio or something, and
a little smile on your face.
Yeah, because it's fun, and I can sort of hear the cockiness. I can hear the irreverence. I can hear the joy. I can hear the youth in it. My voice sounds very different, and because I never really sang before that first record. We did all the gigs we did. That was the first time I'd sang in the studio. Mm-hmm. And I can sort of hear the excitement and hear my voice, with all compression and all this sauce
and energy and
yeah. No, it's fun to listen to, and yeah, I agree. It's just it sounds like a good sort of crystallization of early big rock and roll.
Yeah, and you definitely contributed something on that, and I know you've got a million milestones since then, and riffs and all this other kind of great stuff that people know you for. But that is something that I think will be locked away in the vault of stamps that you've put a stamp in the guitar scene. And you're the most humble guy.
Even though I ripped it from Johnny Marr.
What's that?
It's basically his thing. It said, "How soon is now?" Yeah. It's just that I took that and then I sprinkled a little bit of Pete Townsend on it, and there you go.
Speaking of which, something, I never talk about Pete Townsend on this show. I don't think I've ever mentioned his name. I respect him. I love him. A song I love by The Who, and here again too, everyone gets goosebump songs, and no word of a lie. Like obviously, The Oaf is a goosebump song for me, but Eminence Front. What do you?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that not something?
Yeah.
Is that not something? Oh yeah.
Yeah, big time. I like that.
Yeah, that's insane.
We covered that on a tour. We were touring the Watchmen way back in the day, and we were like, we should do a thing at the end of the show where both bands get on stage. So we did Eminence Front. I had a great time with it. I love that.
Oh, I would love to hear. Can that be found anywhere online? That you?
Oh, I got it. This is pre.
Okay.
It's Miles. Mayfield 4 was on that tour as well.
Okay.
Got to be 98, 99.
Yeah, so everyone's got at best a big VHS camcorder, maybe at the best back then.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's wicked. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little slight digression, and I think I know the answer to this, but I never know when I ask you questions, so I'm just gonna set myself out there. Are you a vinyl guy? Do you like vinyl?
Yep.
Okay, and I know you have some vinyl. Big Rec's new album is available on vinyl, a 2LP. So I grew up on it as well too. That's how I learned everything was vinyl, and now I'm just getting my boy Eric Jr. into it, and we're loving it. We got a turntable the other day from a good friend, and got a good stereo here. Just didn't have a turntable, and we had vinyl before we had the turntable. And so getting some good stuff. I've got a couple of Van Halens here, and he's got some really cool stuff. His very first one he got, his first vinyl was Michael Jackson's Thriller. I think it's a good album. What would you recommend yourself as something guys got to go out, guys and girls go out and got to hear this on vinyl, whether it's something from 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or something from last week?
Everything I say is going to be an older record.
That's okay. That's good.
The stuff that I grew up listening to was on vinyl, and it was, my parents' collection, right?
Mm-hmm. Tell some of them, because I'll share some of mine too from my parents. Same deal.
Yeah, Zeppelin 3. I mean, I've said that before, but there's something about that thing on vinyl. It's magical. Bunch of ABBA stuff on vinyl. Oh, and it's so beautifully engineered. They don't get enough credit for a lot of things, ABBA. They get a lot of credit for writing great hit songs, but how well that stuff's recorded and performed, it's and yeah, they sound great on vinyl.
Yeah.
Dire Straits.
Okay, good.
Brothers in Arms is great on vinyl.
Yeah.
Communique is great on vinyl. They're all great on vinyl. What's Private Investigations? Is that the record? Or no, Love Over Gold.
Okay.
That's the record. Private Investigations is one of the tunes. That record I thought sounded particularly great, warm. And you can buy the box set. I have the box set, the Dire Straits.
Oh, nice.
On vinyl, yeah.
Very, very nice.
What else? I mean, any Zeppelin you get, of course.
Yeah.
Said. Because I just thought of putting on Zeppelin 4, and I was like, there it is. There's something about the warmth and the crackle and there's something about the ceremony of laying the needle down, either on the top of it or in whatever cut you want to. We did a lot of Skynyrd when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. My old man was a Skynyrd fan, and it's pronounced Leonard Skynyrd. That was a big one on vinyl.
Yeah.
I don't know. Scott, my dad had to be thousands of records that I would just sort of mull over and pick one that I liked the artwork to,
Yeah. My dad never really listened to, he listened to whatever my mom would put on. My dad was not the guy that put on the records, but he didn't seem to object to whatever my mom put on. Mm-hmm. But mine was a little different, but there were some guitar influences too. And my mom, before she passed away, she'd always say, why can't you play like Chet Atkins? And Chet Atkins was a huge influence in the house. So even though I never credit Chet as an influence, he certainly was, because that's all I heard. Les Paul and Mary Ford. Burl Ives, which is kind of fun family music. I'm not sure if you know him. He's popular in Canada. Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra. Let me see, who else was it? Elvis, of course. I mean, Elvis was a religion in our home, whether you liked it or not, and I kind of did. I'm trying to think who else.
I love it.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
Chuck Berry, a little bit of Chuck Berry, and then there's a bunch of other stuff. Oh, the Irish Rovers and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So that was great, and the cool thing is with that, guess what my whole point was. Is you and I were talking about this just off the air before we went live. I think the world sometimes needs to go back to not only to the vinyl days, but to going out in the backyard and playing with a stick. The kids playing with a stick and making forts and stuff like that. Nowadays, you get apps to do that. You get an app to play with a stick. We need to slow things down, kind of live in the moment.
It's not. It's just different.
It is. It's a different world.
And it's tough for me to say, on this side of it, to my daughter who's on her phone a little too much for my liking, but at the same time, it's they all are.
Yeah.
But we've got her into reading and sports and all kinds of things. So I'm happy for that. But at the same time, there's nothing quite like having a conversation with somebody face to face. And I go through a lot of texting and emailing back and forth for sort of administrivia, all the stuff that makes this work. And it's the texting and the emailing. It's like, okay, I just fucking call me. Let's just conversation and just say, okay, here's where I'm at. And then everything goes a lot quicker,
Yeah.
I find you lose inflection, you lose a lot of it, and I'm just talking communication here.
Yes.
You lose a lot when it's just like, you know, there's only so much that LOL can really tell you.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right. Yeah.
So and you get my gist. It just it's one of those. I'd rather talk to a person, and I think a lot of that's getting lost.
I agree.
Which is weird. I don't know. I don't want to know where it's going to go because it's, you know.
Yeah. Well,
the whole part of life. You know.
I know. I'm a little bit older than you, and I know, but you probably remember this. I'm sure you do, or your parents or whatever. So back in the day, we had the old rotary dial phones. Back in that day, you had to make a conscious effort to call somebody. So if I'm sitting there, tick, 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 30 times, I'm making an effort. I really want to talk to somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you mean it.
Yeah. Nowadays, you don't even know your phone rings.
Nines and zeros in their number because it was like the longest thing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember trying to call the radio stations to win a prize? That was horrible. You know.
No,
I did. I did that. Call now. You know, sing, 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 and then I misdialed. You got to stop, hang up again, and you have like more callus on your finger than you did playing guitar, just trying to win a prize from a radio station.
Yeah. No, I never did that. I just remember trying to call friends of mine, and it's been so long since I've used a rotary phone, but whatever number it was, it's furthest away from the little finger rest at the.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hey, there's so many of those, and it's his phone number, you know.
It's one of the good things to have because power goes out. You can still make a call if you're using a regular landline. You know, you can if power goes out. You can still use one of those things.
Yeah, there you go.
And nowadays you have to pay a premium to go find one. Go to a used shop and you're paying 100 times more what they're worth because they're not around anymore.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
It's crazy.
Used in like for movies and TV and stuff.
Yeah.
Props.
That's right. So I guess where I was going with the vinyl, so I popped on one of the first ones I listened to the other day, and this was a really cool moment. I listened to Van Halen's 1984, and this may be an answer to the next question coming up, but the last time I listened to 84 on vinyl, and Van Halen 1984 isn't my most favorite produced album. I find it a little thin, right up there with OU812 as far as the production quality. However, it was the first time I listened to it since I was a late teen or maybe early teen. I forget how old I was when I first heard it, but I actually had a little bit of emotion and not tears in the eyes, but I was certainly brought back. I made a joke on Facebook saying, who needs a DeLorean to go back in time? You just need a vinyl record player and a subwoofer. And I was right back to that 13-year-old, 14-year-old kid, whatever, and there was nothing like it. My boys right there beside me, looking at each other, we're smiling. It was quite the moment.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was cool.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing.
It is.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the question I was going to ask you. We talked about a time capsule with you when I said maybe the Oath might be a time capsule piece. Let's just say 200 years from now, we resurrect this time capsule from the ground and we pull out a Van Halen album that's in this time capsule that's put away. What would it be if it was you locking that album away to represent Van Halen 200 years from now? Which one from their catalog?
Van Halen?
Yep. There's no wrong answer.
Well, Eruption has to be in there.
Yep. So the first record then. Yeah.
That has to be there.
That was kind of the blueprint for bands to follow.
I really dig Unchained. I always thought that killer riff.
You got that because look at what I'm holding right here, right to my side. Fair warning on vinyl.
Oh, there you go.
It doesn't get any better than that. Unchained is my favorite song of any group out there.
That's one of the meanest riffs you're ever gonna hear.
Yep.
And he's got a million of them that are equally as good. Maybe not quite as dark, but and I'll be honest. I know you're gonna hate this, but Dance the Night Away. I used to listen to that a lot.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all.
I love it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, a little bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go on. To me, Van Halen. You just say the word Van Halen, and there's an image that comes to mind, and there's sort of a sound, and there's a color, and there's a whole thing that comes over you when you hear Van Halen. It's like, yeah, and there's a smile to it.
There is.
You know what I mean? It's like these guys are having fun, and it sounds like that. Even when it's darker and it's a little, a little more meat on the bone than a poppier song. It still sounds like they're having fun. Certainly when he cuts loose, you can hear there's a devil may care kind of. He's like he says, he's jumping off the top stair and then landing on his feet at the bottom. So
yeah,
and I love that feeling of like, wow, he just went for it and he landed it.
I know. And I take zero offense when you say things like Dance the Night Away and like things like Women in Love and things that aren't necessarily the guitar songs and the solos.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people, they really rag on Diver Down, and I love that. No, there's some good guitar work on there too, but I love the covers. That's one of those things where you put the windows down, the sunroof open, cruising down the street. You just cranked at full blast, no distortion, dancing in the streets, where have all the good times gone, things like that. Kick-ass party music.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. Well,
wrong with
I like the fact that you mentioned Eruption, and this is a segue into the next thing. And one of our good mutual friends, I just featured him in a video the other day. I say the other day, probably a month ago now. I put a video together, the top 3 Eruption covers on planet Earth. And all of us guitar players out there tried to copy it at one point. I'm sure you've even noodled with it, just playing a riff or two. And,
I'll be honest, I've never even tried it.
Okay, well, that's cool. That was going to be a question.
Nah, it's too much. It's his thing. It's
Who would you? Okay, I'm just
something
gonna.
that's so sort of secularly him that I hear guys do it and get close, and I'm like, wow, he's got so close to the Eddie thing, but
Well, I'm going to ask you, what do you think? I'm going to just venture a guess, and it's a guy that we both know, and you're very good friends with him. Who do you think it is I picked as the number 1 player in the world to copy Eruption?
Pete.
Got it.
Yeah.
What surprise?
Pete's really got the Ed thing down.
He does. He
even gets toned down in the touch. Like, he's very close.
There were 3 people I picked in reverse order. A fellow Canadian who's a monster guitar player, a young kid, Jacob Duraps. He's from Montreal, Quebec, and he actually just the other night jammed with Toto on stage for soundcheck, and Steve Lukather was hugging him from behind. We were watching him do the solo. Steve was impressed, and Steve is a monster, as you know. Second, a cat that you'd know as well too, Dweezil Zappa.
Yeah.
Phenomenal player. And then Pete. And that's how I discovered Pete. I don't know how many years ago. We'll say go back about 10 years ago. I was searching how to play Eruption the best way. And whose video comes up number 1? Pete's 5 different segments, because back then you could only upload 15 minutes of a video. And even that video, you watch it back, it's like in resolution like this. The sound is there. He's got the sound, the dynamic, the accuracy. It was just everything.
He's got a wonderful attention to detail when it comes to every aspect of it, like the playing and the performance of it, obviously, and the tone. Everything all kind of melds into one, as you know, with a guitar sound and a guitar player. It starts with the hands, and it starts from somewhere within, and then the hands are how we hear it, and then strings and touch and amps and how amps react to your touch. And Pete's really into all that stuff, and I think he knows how to manipulate it better than most. Maybe because he's such a strong curiosity for it. I don't really know, because I've never really talked to him about it. I'm just always dazzled by how he's able to get different sounds. And I played with him on that Suhr NAMM show.
Yep, I just watched that today. I'm going to comment on that.
We didn't even rehearse.
Yep.
So he was like, you know what? I was thinking maybe this song and this song and this song, like whatever songs we did for that show. He said, because everybody's going to be, guitar Olympics. Everybody's going to be showing off. So what if we gave him some songs? I was like, yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I can't keep up with a lot of these guys anyway, like Andy Woods and all these like super shredders. I'm just like, I don't even try. I just want to hear it. So the idea struck me as something that'd be a good idea, and then I wasn't able to make it down until sort of day of. So he was rehearsing with the bass player and the drummer, wonderful players, Blair and I think John, great. He did a rehearsal in LA the night before, and then he had all these things programmed into his pedal board, and he stuff that would usually take the 3 of us as an intro for a song. Meaning Paula, myself, and Brian, playing harmony and doing something really. He would just sort of loop into a looper, and then I was like, man, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
and it sounded great, and it was like, there's the sound, and he was right there with the harmonies and right there with the parts, and like I said, we didn't even rehearse. I showed up and we did a sound check, and I was like, sounds great. Yeah. Everything was bang on, and he just sort of, and that speaks to his attention to detail. And of course, his talent and being able to perform it and play everything just so. even though we'd never even like it's one thing to pick it off a record, but it's another when you're sitting in front of the guy.
Yeah.
To learn it somebody's part, and that's how you get that little inflection.
Yeah.
And he just sort of instinctively, sort of dissected my stuff. No problem.
One thing I got to say something about that too, because I was going to make a mention of that particular actual video. I was watching that today, like I was telling you. I always get into. I told you this off the air. I'm listening to your music like crazy as I'm preparing for the show, getting right into the mood, right, getting ready to pumped up for the show, right. And I watched that particular video, and kudos to Pete. He's a phenomenal player, one of my favorite guitar players in the world. But watching that, as good as Pete is, you watch that video back, and some of the fans will watch that back, and watch Pete look at you, and you have to see it, and you may not even see it if you watch it yourself, because you're kind of looking at yourself, and you'll never really get it, because you don't want to be too into yourself, obviously. But the fans will see it. Pete's looking at you. He looks at the drummer. He looks back at you, and he's smiling as if I'm on stage, like smiling to Eddie Van Halen. That's the way he was looking at you. So that's pretty cool.
It's
there. I'm not lying. I
have a lot of affection for that guy. So anything that whenever his name comes up, I always have good words and a smile on my face.
I know. I watch you guys communicate online a lot too. It's always I love seeing the interactions. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a kind-hearted soul and just a beautiful guy. So he's a monster player and all that. But,
yeah. It's nice too for competition for you guys, friendly competition, kick each other in the butt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never really been that guy. Sometimes
no, but just kind of drive.
When you get on stage with somebody, and sometimes there can be a little jab or a little bite, and it's like, okay, and all in good fun. Yep. When I was young, I was all about that, going after somebody and try to chew them out a bit, and pissing contest, cut and all that. I don't really care, but and I've said it before. Having said that, when somebody goes after you a little bit, it's like, okay, let's do this.
Let the dogs off the chain for a couple minutes.
Yep. Yeah, let's see what happens.
That's right.
But and again, all in good fun. Anybody that I would get on stage and share the stage with or get on stage with, I have great affection for, and I would never want to be embarrassed by them or try to embarrass them, and whatever it may be. Even though there's like a small percentage of people in the audience that would even realize what happened.
Yep.
Because when I was a kid, when I was in college, that was kind of the thing. There was a lot of that vibe going on and cutting heads, and a lot of it is mimicry. And the better that you can, when you hear something, you can play it right away. You hear something, you can play it right away, but play it better and end it better. That's a good phrase. I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to end it better. And just that sort of thing, which can turn mean and ugly pretty quick.
Oh,
and certainly, I've had my ass handed to me several times, and it hardens you up quick and shows you how to think that way on your feet. But it's not a tool to be used with friends or even in the studio.
That's right.
It's just sort of muscle that doesn't need to get exercised once you.
I agree.
I'm not in that game.
No, I hear you. And
I'll sit here and I'll look at this screen here and I'll play the solo and be like, I can do better, and I'll do it again.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no macho shit here.
I love the way you said that too, and I'm going to give a practical experience too, because I had the opportunity years ago. I don't even know how long ago it was now. It's probably close to 10 years ago. I had with my band, who is now retired, I opened for you 3 or 4 times, and you come through the Southwestern Ontario. Some were indoor venues, and some were Rockstock was one of the ones at the municipal airport. Not sure if you remember that one. But anyways, one of the indoor venues where I opened for you, you had just gotten some Line 6 gear at the time. Were just given to you, and you didn't really know it yet. And I was complimenting you on your tone, and you're like, oh, really? You liked it, whatever, because you said you hadn't really gotten through it. But I've told this story on the show a bunch of times where I've opened for a lot of the 80s bands who are now coming back, like the Quiet Riots and Great Whites and bands like that. And I never wanted to say the band. I didn't want to say the names of the bands that were complete asses to me, and they had rights to be, I guess. They were big and we weren't, and they proved.
Still not really the reason, is it?
No, but you and your entourage of people, and I never even said it was you. So this is the first time I'm saying it's you in a good way. Treated me in my band with respect. Stayed there for photos, answered gear questions, and we talked and talked and talked. And that was, it's amazing. You probably didn't even realize what you did for another fellow musician and a fan. You could have went the other way and said, look, man, I'm tired. I'm dead. I got to get on the bus. I got to be in Detroit, but you took the time, and that really goes a long way. Not only does it win over a musician, it wins over fans.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's not obviously, as you know, I'm sure you know, that's not this level of success or that type of band or anything. That's just people.
It's people.
I wouldn't want people around me that are dicks.
Nope.
To there's people around me that can be dicks to people who are being dicks. But generally, I've always sort of found that you get what you give, and like I'm not really, I don't like confrontation and vibe and all that shit. When I get it, it's just like, okay, I'll move on. People have questions or just shooting the shit about guitar stuff. It's like, yeah, I got all day for that.
Let's talk about that. I know let's geek out.
It's kind of a thing.
That's right.
And I think you find, like, as I did, all these guys are like that. As I sort of started doing more and more shows with people that I knew and admired, and some people are deeper into it than others, but everybody's a pretty good person. Everybody is generally down to earth and interested in the same shit that I am. So it should be a given that, we have stuff to talk about and stuff to connect on. Oh, it doesn't matter. Like, well, this guy's sold 5 billion records and I've sold 20 records.
But he likes guitar.
It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like, I've been in that situation with a lot of guys who are just legendary status and have sold a shit ton of records, and it's just like, well, and they actually know who I am or know my music. It's like, that is a thrill for me.
I know.
I don't care. I'm like, wow, right on. I don't need the picture.
That's right.
And then usually we end up talking about guitars and amps and pedals and software, hardware, all of it.
Everything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, talking shop. Well, it's funny. I'm gonna tell you about a person I talked shop with recently, and then I'm gonna sacrifice all the rest of my questions because we're coming up on almost our hour, and we're gonna wrap it up in 90 minutes. So I'm gonna give all the fans their questions, ones I have on the itinerary that people ask me in the group, plus what's live. Where was I going with this? Yes, last time one of the guests I had on the show, I had Chris from J Rocket Audio and Sean Tubbs on. You know Sean Tubbs from Carrie Lewis band. Yeah. So here's the funny thing.
I've heard his playing just online, and he's a monster.
Stupid crazy good, and he made me pop in tonight. He pops on occasionally, but here's the thing I said to him. I said, Sean, you know what? I'm having a hard time gravitating. Where can I say you're from? Like your style. What are you like? I said, the only other guy I've ever heard that's like you, and this is a slight comparison, is Ian Thornley. Have you ever heard of Ian Thornley? And then it was like the show stopped and went and took a right to Ian Thornley direction, and he did a video for J. He does a lot of J Rocket demos, and there's one. He says a lot of people don't know this, but this is my personal thing. I'm telling you, and he told us on the show, this was my tribute to Ian Thornley. This thing he was doing. I'll send you the link later. And of course, too, I sent you a message on Facebook a while back, and you probably didn't see it, but they want to talk to you at J Rocket as well too. So I'm going to give you Chris's email and phone number. They want to talk to you, so they got some ideas. But both of those guys, and here, this is nice to see this down in central United States. Huge, massive, big Rec fans. This is both Sean and this is Chris from J Rocket. So
Cool.
That's where the comparison was. I was like, this kind of skitty scat all over the place. What do you call it? And I've never seen anyone like you two guys. It's everyone else has got their thing, but you guys are somewhat almost like your stepbrothers or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. It's nice to be even mentioned in the same sentence as that guy. He's a monster. He's a beautiful, beautiful player.
He is.
Phrasing, his tone is always spot on. He's great.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool they have admiration for one another. It's awesome.
Yeah, he can fit into anything too.
He can. He's a chameleon.
He's really, really good.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'll send you those contact details too, because you should reach out to them.
Hours of practice is starting to pay off.
Yeah, there you go. And there's one question. This is not kind of a question; it's more of a statement. Someone on the Facebook group said, what was it? I think they're talking about your height, whatever. And does height affect something? I forget what it was. But I was like, yeah, I know how tall he is because I met you before several times. But the meeting you at NAMM at the Suhr booth, I'm 6'2", just a little tiny less than 6'2", shy. And you dwarfed me. I remember looking up at you, and Pete's looking at you. I think Pete's looking at your beard, and we were commenting on that picture. It was a Canadian trio. It was kind of fun, and commenting on the beard and whatnot. It was freaking hilarious. And I lost your audio there. Hopefully I haven't lost you for good. Are we still there? A slight pause. I may have to call Ian back. Bear with us, folks. We lost Ian there for a second. That was a very, very cool moment, though. Okay, there we go. We got him. We got you. We lost you for a second. Happened? Not sure. Just a hiccup. Just a hiccup on one of our connections, so we're good as long as we didn't lose you. But yeah, I was saying that the height was amazing. So I am going to jump right over to the fan questions from the Facebook group. And for people that don't know about the group, there is a link in the description down below to the Big Rec fans. And I want to thank everyone that's on that group. I'm brand new to it. I just joined it last night. And everyone's been very kind to me there tonight. So they kind of welcomed me with open arms. So thank you. I have a few people's names marked down. I'm going to say right here, the first question is from Randall Pennington from the Facebook page. Are you working on anything new material-wise at the moment? I know you just have new stuff out now, but is there anything that you're working on for future?
Well, working on new stuff, that kind of thing never really ends.
Right.
Yeah, it just sort of. I play a lot. I describe it as like my hobby. My main hobby is playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, writing songs and putting music together is a passion, and that's my lifeblood. My hobby is the sort of guitar Olympic stuff and working on technique and doing things that I'll never really be able to put on a record because they just sound ridiculous. They're fun and they're party tricks.
Right.
But they require hours and hours and hours, and I'm like, well, what better way to do it? And invariably I end up stumbling on something that, I can use that. And I'll start building it, and I'll just sort of document it, maybe on an iPhone or something, and then when it comes time to really flesh things out and write a record, you know, that'll be there. But as far as actually actively writing things right now, no. I mean, you know, sometimes I chase that rabbit down the hole a little further than others. Sometimes I stand over the hole waiting for the rabbit to pop out a little longer than others. But I, for the most part, I you know, with that record just came out, and I tend to want to dive into a song so I can have everything sort of coming at the same time, because that to me is the best way. That's the best way to feel it. Mm-hmm. You know, when it drops in your lap, that's the best. Yes. But the closest I can get to it is if I know kind of what the song is going to be about, you know, at the right time is when you tackle that song.
Yes.
Because then those things are going to be fresh and they're going to be there. And even if you don't get all the lyrics done, it could just be one word or one phrase that's going to be like, okay, I know what this song's about. I see the imagery. I get the whole thing. Top, middle, bottom, it's all done.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat. I just haven't written it out yet.
That's right. Well, good answer. Good answer.
So I'm not in that
writing mode, but you're just
right now. I come up with a good little lyric turn, a good little idea. I'll jot it down. I'll put it in my notes section of my iPhone. But I'm not marrying it to a piece of music just yet. But I mean, granted, there's hours and hours and hours of music to comb over before I start writing. You know.
Yep. I always do the same thing too. I'll throw something on the computer and I'll go back to it. I'll save them in folders and I'll go back, let's say 6 months from now, and I'll say, okay, that's not too bad. I still like it. It still has legs. I'll move it to another folder, you know, to kind of a keepers. I'm refreshing the keepers all the time. I'll go back a year later sometimes, like, you know, that actually still sounds good. If something sounds good a year later, it might potentially have some legs to it, maybe address. Something if you listen to it again, it's like, you know what, now I'll never delete something. I'll never ever delete anything, but I'll move it away so it's not in my peripheral vision, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I have songs that every record I've ever done. There's songs that are really old, but it might not be full songs. But there's ideas and seeds of songs,
of course,
that just never quite fit. They
didn't hatch
quite
yet.
You know, and I've like sort of forced a chorus on them or forced a verse around them or whatever it is. But there's a little jewel in there that I've always loved. And it's like, well, you never know when that penny's going to drop. And sometimes it could be 2 years, it could be 1 year, it could be 10 years.
Yep.
You just never know. And just like when something just kind of, you know, there it is. When something arrives, you feel it, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, there's no question. That's how it was supposed to be. But I never would have written that part 3, 7, 10 years ago. I never would have written that.
That's
but
right.
now, oh, man, that really works.
Yep.
Life
changes, and
to me, because it's a never-ending cycle of searching and finding and documenting and putting into my little basket all these little things. Sometimes it's just a matter of, what if and then fitting two things together, and all of a sudden the hair on your arm stands up, and you're like, yes, it really is. It's a nonstop thing.
I agree.
I mean, I would venture to call that writing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's more research and development. It's
as opposed to a session. Yes.
It's not actually sitting down and crafting what's the perfect way to say this, or what's.
Yep. R&D is the best way to say it, like you said. Here's a statement and a question at the same time. This is from the same group, from Rachel Hurley. Says she's your biggest fan and wants to know how you feel about the current popularity of the band.
Current popularity?
Yeah. I'd say that's a good thing. I mean, doing well.
Yeah, I got no problems with it at all.
That's good. Well, she's your biggest fan.
I'm lucky to have a career and people that come out to shows and buy records. And I think I speak for all the guys that, especially as hard as it is nowadays. I hold no bitterness if that's what Rachel's going for. Is like, do I have any bitterness that we never, dominated the world? Not at all.
Nope.
Because I've seen both sides of that coin.
Yeah, that can be careful what you wish for sometimes, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have the freedom to make art.
Yes.
And make music that we want, and be able to, and still have it played on the radio, and have people listen to it, have people come out and see us, there's no complaints there.
That's good. Well, one of the things too, like every artist and every entertainer, no matter what you're in, whether you're a comedian or musicians like we are, you're gonna have lovers, you're gonna have haters. And one thing I can say is, when I went to this group and I reached out to people if they wanted to ask you any questions, outpouring of support for you. Like, it was absolutely, I've seen it from bands, other people like bands and stuff like that. But it was amazing. So I felt very warm and fuzzy feeling when I was asking some of these people their questions. So it was very cool. From that same group, a fellow, I think I've got, if I have the name pronounced correctly, Jules, and I shouldn't say it's a fellow, I guess Jules Cote. It sounds like a male name. How do you come up with some of your tunings for your songs? I like that question.
Well, a lot of times I have I have go-to kind of tunings, go-to pet tunings, like an open G or an open C, open D, open E, and then, or a dadgad. And sometimes I'll just go from there. And sometimes it'll just start from something else.
Yeah.
Where I'll be sitting there, like I could be sitting way back in the couch doing something like this, and like hitting the B string, and I think, wait, I've never actually tuned the low string all the way down to match the B string, which this is down a half step, so it would actually be a low B flat.
Right.
I have tuned down to low B flat, but that's when the rest of the guitar was in F. But what if it was in standard, a half step down, and low string went all the way down to B flat? And then you start messing around with things in there, and then I start taking other ones and just sort of experimenting with voicings, and I mean, I'm such a big fan of the sound of open strings and full sounding chords, and that oftentimes can that can write the song for you. It can be a tuning. It can be the sound of a tuning that just like,
where'd that come from?
Yeah, and then you just follow your ear, you just, like I said before, you follow that rabbit down the hole, and and then you sort of squeeze as much life juice as you can out of that idea, and either put it together right there or set it aside. Sometimes it puts itself together, and that's great. But I mean, as far as the tuning goes, I mean, they all have a different personality. They have a different. That song Useless, that just came from taking my B string and going down to a B flat. And then, this little picking pattern sort of popped out. And then, a whole song was written pretty quickly. I mean, it was just a picking pattern with sort of three chord parts, and I was like, oh, I like how these all fit together. But in my mind, I'd already knew the song was already written. I waited until the last minute to write that one because it's pretty, it's a deep and dark place that you don't want to stay in for too
sure.
long.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
get in, get out. Get in and get out.
Get what you need and fucking run for your life, you know. In my mind, it was I had the tuning, I had the picking pattern, and it was just sort of like, okay, this is done. And it was that kind of thing is hard to articulate to other people. I mean, Garth, thank God, he's so amazing. He was like, he got it, and that's a song that Garth and I just sort of pieced together in maybe an hour. And it actually started to become, while we were demoing it, it started to become more about the roads. It became more of a piano song, which thankfully, when we cut the final thing, the piano's still in there, but it's more back to being a guitar thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's again, I don't think that song would have been born were it not for taking a B, making it B flat, and then starting to play G chords and F chords and C chords, and then B flat ringing out as the seventh, like a nice, and just and there's still cowboy chords, like very simple, lush, open sounding chords, but that have a lilt. They're different than what you're accustomed to hearing. Sometimes it starts from standard tuning, sometimes it starts from an open tuning, and it can take you to some weird places. But
someone I had on recently who's a fan.
It's interesting to sort of throw yourself in the deep end with a tuning.
I agree.
And I with me, it's always, especially if I'm playing like I am now, like not plugged in the air. It always has to do with open strings.
Yes.
When you're plugged in, or if you're using a pedal or something, you know, sometimes you can get away with using less strings and getting interesting voicings out of things. But for the most part, it's just kind of whatever sound I'm hearing. I'm sort of a reactive guy.
Yeah.
So if I'm plugged into something and there's a lot of distortion on it, I might start to play one way. Playing clean sound or a different type of guitar, I might start to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that influence what you're writing, and you know, all of it.
Yeah. Last week I had on last Friday I had George Bohon Jr. on from Black Eyed Peas and Cairo Knife Fight, and he's another guy who uses really cool tunings. And I met up with him. I got to finally meet him in person at the same booth where I met you. He was coming around the corner, and he hadn't known of you yet. And I've been telling him through emails. Email him, saying, "Okay, you got to check out Ian Thornley. Got to check out Ian Thornley." And so I met up with him there, and giving him hugs and stuff like that. And I think I went to the booth on the Sunday, and you were performing there on the Saturday, or vice versa. Maybe you were performing Friday, but you were there on the Friday or the next day. So I said, "George, watch. Ian's going to get up. He's going to play in a few minutes." And he goes, "Okay, I'll be right back." And he came back, and then we realized that you weren't playing. You were just kind of hanging out there. But he's since become a huge fan of yours. But with his new band, you should check him out if you haven't heard them, Cairo Knife Fight. He's doing some stuff like A to A tunings, and like he's using, like, you think you use some thick gauge strings. It even makes some of your strings look like dental floss. He's using some crazy ass stuff, but he's also running to like 5 different rigs. So he's running one rig to like an 810 Ampeg bass rig. It's stupid what he's doing. And on the video last week, live, and it's all, nothing is tracked. They use no backing.
No, it's why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Noise.
Yeah, two guys in the band, and they sound like 8. It's amazing.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, good for them.
So it was cool. All right, so next question from the group. This is from Chris Davidson. Was there ever an in-loving memory of front to back tour ever thought of commemorating the 20 years?
A tour?
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay.
No, we're thinking about Gray Street. I guess that's because it's, I guess now it's 20 years, right? Or in October.
Okay. Yeah, right. Years. Okay.
So no, not really. I mean, it'd be nice to commemorate that stuff, but I mean, if we were all dried up and had nothing to say or nothing to write, or didn't have any, like, if I dried out of ideas, then I might,
Yeah. No, that's good.
Or if I couldn't get a tour otherwise, then of course.
Yep.
It really is like, it's a combination of what can we do and what do we have to do, and what can we get away with, But no, there's a few things that I've thought about over the years with those first 2 records that would be interesting to do. So stay tuned. There might be something that
you never know.
That would bend the air. You never know.
Yeah.
There might be. You never know. Okay. I won't say any more.
No, that's good. That's good. We'll keep people guessing. Andrew Mooney from the group says, favorite riff to play at home when relaxing. Do you ever find yourself picking up a guitar and sometimes going to a riff? Maybe it's like an old Leonard Skinner, or are you not that guy?
You mean like somebody else's riff?
Yeah, or maybe it's yours too. But do you find something that you pick up a lot? Maybe this just gets you in the zone, and then you go elsewhere.
No, I generally, I've noticed over the last sort of maybe 4 years that every time I pick up a guitar, like sort of 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, I sit down, and then, CNN goes on and it's on mute, and then I sort of read the ticker thing, and I, but my hands always tend to go to the same place.
Yep.
But it's not really a riff. It's just sort of something to limber up.
Yeah.
I recently stumbled on, what was the name of that tune? That's when you mentioned Skinner, that, wait, maybe you can help me with the song.
I don't know it.
Don't know it?
No.
On the Hunt.
Okay.
There's what a fucking riff. When I was a teenager, I'd listen to that thing and be like, how? It's so simple and so perfect and so beautiful and so, there's a riff I wish I wrote.
Yeah, that's a question I ask sometimes. What's the riff that you wish you wrote? There you go.
I'm not a huge fan of the song, mind you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, because as soon as the riff comes back around, I'm like, damn, it's worth the price of admission. That riff that's one of my favorite all-time riffs. But no, I stumbled on that a couple weeks ago, and I sort of hit that, once every couple of days.
That's cool. Yeah, and I find a couple that I go to all the time, and it's like, why do I do this? It happens. I can't stop it. It happens. So it's one of those things.
Yeah.
And
as far as like licks go and sort of technical things, there's a lot of stuff that I find myself doing I don't know why I do it. Mm-hmm. Hang on, I have to refresh this thing. Mm-hmm. Oh boy. Still. No, as far as just playing, there's a lot of things where I'm like, well, why do I do that? And then, and then my next question is, well, how can I turn that into something usable?
Yeah.
How can I turn that into a phrase, or into a lick, or into something that somebody else might want to hear? Which is always a challenge. You can go too far with licks and tricks. That's where somebody like Eddie is just the fucking master. Like, there's certain people who just have all the facility in the world, but it still sounds like music.
Yeah.
It still sounds like a human being. It still sounds like soul. It doesn't
opposed to a computer generating.
It sounds like somebody saying, this is me.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
And I that's what I strive for. That's what I would always strive for. I would take that shit over a million notes a second.
Good. I love that. Good answer.
The rest of it is to stay limber in my old age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Keeping the chops up and dexterity. Yeah, I agree. Here's a funny question, and I'm going to start it off by prefacing with my fiance here, Poison Ivy. She used to follow a band, and I won't say who they are, a Canadian band. You'd know them, same circuit as you guys a long time ago too. And she followed them from city to city, province to province. And there's a question from Brian Young from that same group. He says, "You often get to see some fans, the same fans, a lot of girls, in the same front rows at every concert. Do you look at them as stalkers or diehard fans?"
Diehard fans, of course.
There you go. Yeah.
No, there's stalkers I don't think we really have that.
No.
We're not, like Johnny Depp has stalkers.
There you go.
That's not that doesn't occur in our world.
There you go.
That's just people with good taste in music.
That's good. I promised him I would ask. Here's a question from a girl, from Liz Ismendi. I'm sorry, I hope I got it right. My pronunciation is bad. Liz Ismendi. What's on your iPod playlist?
Fucking everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on a big Kate Bush kick right now.
Okay.
I'm just astounded by Kate Bush. I just don't know. I think I get the feeling, much like David Bowie, I get the feeling that she was just sort of dropped on the planet as she is, like with this amazing, enormous, unique, singular talent that's unlike everybody else. and just sort of untouchable, but completely honest and resonates with me in amazing ways. And like David Bowie's always thick. Like that, I have a lot of stuff that I go to, but yeah, with something that my girlfriend thinks is just like, yeah, I don't know, it's good.
That's awesome.
I'm like, no, you don't feel the same way as I do. She says, no, obviously not. So I realize it's kind of unique to me as a guitar nerd to really love Kate Bush.
Yep.
There's very little guitar in her music, or at least in the stuff that I'm listening to.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Running Up That Hill.
Yeah.
Love and Anger. Wuthering Heights, like songs like that. I'm like the changes in the melodies are just, they're a thing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, all the usual suspects.
Yeah.
I like trying to get turned on by new things. LP, I'm a big fan of her. There's a lot of things that I listen to.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's always hard to say when somebody asks you. It's like,
oh, I know. And mine too. Mine is all of. I got everything from Katy Perry to Van Halen to Linkin Park to whatever. But it's really funny you mentioned David Bowie, and this is something that most people that know me wouldn't expect. We're driving into the city tonight, just me and my boy. He's 11 years old, and he asked if we can listen to Ziggy Stardust. How cool is that? How cool is that? I'm like, no problem. Boom. You know what I mean? And something else he's got me into. This is on the total flip side of that. He's really discovering great music, but this isn't old music. This is newer music now. Band he's got me into, huge, and it would never be in my wheelhouse is the Gorillaz. You familiar with the Gorillaz? Damon Albarn from Blur.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
His project. And to be honest with you, I was grooving with it for a little bit with the boy. Now I'm darn hooked. Gonna go see him at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto with the boy, and it's something we really do together. Getting to listen to it on vinyl, stuff like that. So, but I mean, he gets in the car, he'll say, "Can we listen to 1984 remastered? Can we listen to whatever?" And I'm like, "Man, the best things you could ask you have your kid ask you from the back seat, instead of Sharon Lois and Bram or some kind of books on tape kid story. He wants to listen to classic rock, so I love that. But enough about me. Let's get to some more people from the group. Favorite guitar and why? I know that's like your favorite child, but I mean, favorite guitar and why? Is there a guitar that you grab all the time? Like this gets me through my times.
For obvious reasons, the Suhr, my signature model.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of made just for me.
Good.
And it's just that that's the neck that I love, and I have they've been kind enough to put that neck on a couple other guitars for me. That are not the signature model.
Yeah, because you like the neck.
Neck's so cozy, and it really is a Swiss Army knife of tone. I can get any of the tones that I would use on a record, I can get to within 80 or 90% of them on stage at the flick of a switch. So it really is, for me, it's the most comfortable, reliable, easy to play, reactive guitar. You hit it, it hits back.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're gentle with it, it's a good payoff when you control yourself, and it's a good payoff when you beat the shit out of it.
It's responds to either way.
It's a perfect guitar. Yeah, for me, it's a perfect guitar.
Good, and that's from Ted Perrin, by the way. And maybe this is a complete segue. Michael Kozakowski says, "What made you switch to Suhr?"
I never really switched to Suhr.
Right. Just kind of gravitated to that.
I just, they took over. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have a choice. I'd never played anything that was that perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, some of the guitars I was playing before, I was starting to get into guitars that would have more aggressive sounds, and then at the flick of a switch, nice, crystally clean sounds. Really well-made guitars, beautiful guitars, but the necks would be a little on the thin side for me. I have bigger hands, and I play with my neck over the top of the neck a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like I play
that bar with your thumb.
Do this stuff, but I'll do this, and I do both.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do this, and when you do that kind of thing,
mm-hmm.
your thumb is really squeezing on here, and it's like I would be like, ow, and it would kind of be, because the neck is so thin, it was kind of digging into it like a knife edge.
Yeah.
Whereas a neck like this is just right.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And And also I found with those guitars, if I leaned into them and did that kind of thing, or
yeah,
when you sort of, get a little physical with them, which people are prone to do on stage, I could feel them sort of whimper down.
Yeah,
that's the thing, and like and it would choke out.
These ones kind of like to be slapped a little bit.
So just be like, let's go.
Yeah.
There's older guitars that I think it's because they've been resonated so many times. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of theories on that, but why do certain ones just bounce back when you lean into them? Mm-hmm. So and then John sent me a guitar years and years ago, mm-hmm. and I just couldn't believe it. And I was like, because they're hard to find up here. I don't know if anymore, but back then, like, this got to be 5 years ago, at least, something like that.
It was like finding a needle in a haystack.
And he said it was through Pete, actually.
Yep.
He heard my music, my music. He'd heard Big Wreck music through Pete, and I think it was the Albatross record. Mm-hmm. And he loved it, and he was like, "Okay, I want to make that guy a guitar." So Pete put him in touch with me, and all I'd ever seen was stuff online. I was like, wow, those are beautiful. They had the sort of classic looking things, and they had the more coffee table looking things, and they're all just works of art. And I'd known the Suhr name from when I was in college, like when it was Penza Suhr and Mark Knopfler was playing that caramel colored, breathtaking, so it was kind of like, it was a bit of a thrill to be texting back and forth with this guy and talking on the phone with this guy. Then, of course, when I met him, he's such a lovely, incredibly, intensely intelligent guy, and so knowledgeable, and still just definitely curious, and he's on a different level than anyone I've ever met, in many ways, but in particular with guitar and amps and pedals and all of it.
Yeah.
His son, frighteningly enough, is the same way.
I know, Kevin.
Genius level people, like they're just like
Where he's making pedals and everything.
I kind of just smile and nod.
I know.
About 10 minutes in, because I don't understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But they're just next level attention to detail. But he's such a soulful, beautiful guy, as is his whole family.
I know.
I have affection for all of them. They're great. But anyway, the guitar showed up, and I was just like, okay, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And then once you get it on stage, and the adrenaline comes out, and you start leaning into it a bit, where some things kind of cower away.
Yeah.
This thing kind of stands up to you, and
what you got?
Guitar that plays that well and that buttery.
Yeah.
It's gonna choke when you hit it.
Yeah.
But these ones don't.
That's nice.
So, finally, I don't know. I'd never dreamed that I would even have a signature guitar by anybody, let alone someone like John Suhr.
Oh yeah, no.
They're all Suhr. They're all guys and gals. They're all wonderful people down there. It's a good company. But yeah, I didn't really make a switch. I just like, if I was lucky enough to have another one in my lineup, it was going to take something else out of there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just, and when John comes out with, I'm sure one day he's going to come out with a 24 3/4 sort of archtop thing, and that's going to beat out any of those. It's just, he's that good, and he's that committed, quite honestly, and I can say that firsthand. I've seen it, and it's breathtaking how.
Well, something I think he appreciated. I think it was either just before talking to you at his booth there at NAMM this past January, or just after. I went over and I was wearing my shirt and everything, so you could see the name of the show, whatever. And I just reached out to him, and I reached out to shake his hand. I said hi, introduced myself, and I said, I've known about your brand, but I was really introduced to your brand from Ian. And I said that's why I'm here.
Okay.
I wanted to come to the booth to see Ian and just kind of say hi. And I think he kind of appreciated that, the fact that here's another Canadian guy, doesn't know a lot about the Suhr brand, and he's led by another Canadian guy, and it was cool. It was a very nice, brief conversation. Shook hands, very pleasant.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was nice.
At the core, he's a real. I hate to use it, terms like mensch and salt of the earth, but he really is. He truly is, and he he's a fan of music, and he's a fan of guitar players and guitar playing, and I mean a big fan. And the most important thing to him is not to take over and be bigger than Fender and Gibson. And that's never been on his radar. He doesn't give a shit. He wants to play things that guitar players need. Tools. Wants to make tools where guitar players like, damn, this is perfect.
Yep.
I always wanted something like this. And not just the things like, well, I wish I had something that does this and that. But what if you gave them something that was like, oh, I never even thought about that, you know? And John sort of figured all that out. There's a lot of designs that are sort of classic designs that are great designs, but some of them could use a bit of improving upon, you know? There are certain things you can't really mimic, like 60 years of aging and resonating.
That's right.
But there are certain things that you can improve upon, you know? And I think anything that you can't mimic, John's pretty much mimicked it.
I agree.
You know, as far as aging and as far as getting something to resonate the same way, you know, I'd guarantee I would do the Pepsi challenge with anybody with a 62 Strat and something that John would build that would go up against it, and it would be like, well, this one's great, but this one doesn't buzz.
Yeah, right.
And this one stays in tune, you know, and this one I can set the action up a little lower and it's not going to fret out when I bend it, you know. So it's I'm sort of like it's sort of the best of all worlds with Suhr, you know.
That's good. I'm glad it's worked out for you for sure, and Pete's been happy with them too, with amps obviously and guitars and everything. That's awesome. Yeah. I've got one more fan question here, and I'm just going to jump over to the chat, and we've only got about 5 minutes left. This is the last question from the Facebook group. This is from Lynn Gannon. She says, what was the inspiration and meaning behind the Arborist? And by the way, I put a link down below in this description as well. You did a really cool video on the production side of that. It's on YouTube, and I've linked to it. But what was the meaning and the inspiration behind that?
I think that one's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay. But there is a good video, a link to it in the description as well too. People can go to that, and they can watch it.
Yeah, if you can decipher the lyrics, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's metaphorical, of course. Yeah. Obviously, and then anybody who knows anything about me or what's been going on, or that you don't even need to know that. It's just sort of like,
they'll get it. There you go. Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those songs. It's not. I'm not mining any new territory there. But at the same time, I just thought it was an interesting angle to take. There was a song. There's a part in that song that I had written years ago, but it was in a different key and it was a totally different song and a different thing altogether. But I wanted to have this feeling of that, so I wouldn't know how to articulate it. But that sort of and I said, well, I'm going to take that idea, and because this song never was realized, it never quite became a song. So I just took this thing, and I think that's where the lyric came from, because this little thing that I sort of made the little bridge in the Arborist. That was a song about the Fens in Boston, which are these gardens, these little gardens that I used to walk through, and which led me to singing about Boston and there's a feeling in Boston in the fall in particular. There's a vibe in the street because there's everywhere you look there's a university or a college, and that feeling of that optimism and that wonderment and that it's a great vibe, you know, and to be in a place like that at a time like that for a few years in a row for some reason, always sort of walking through the Fens, and that's where that. So I thought that, and then in contrast to this super dark, kind of heavier sort of Dixie Dregs and Zeppelin riff, I was like, okay, well now we're talking about gardening. Horticulture. And then from there you just the story's already there. You just sort of fill in the blanks and put the pieces together. So
I got you. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna jump over to the chat with just a couple minutes left, and we'll let you fly. And then my chat's probably gonna scroll here when I move this, but I got Darren Moore, who's also helping us out in the chat. Big guitar fan and a good friend. Brian Lott, JD Gonzalez from Venezuela joining. Very, very nice. Joseph Burt, Carlo Santin, Dan Wilhite, Lau Ketchum, The Law, Les Bellin, Chris A, Vintage Sounds, hi Van Halen Gearheads, Bobby Lopez, holy crap, Ian Thornley, one of the best. Very nice. I love to hear stuff like that. Let me see. Chris Kerr, Vintage Sounds. I mentioned them. Bet Buck, Neil Banbury. Let me see here. Aiden Colburn. Tell Ian I said hi. I just did. Aiden Colburn says hi to Ian. Reza Matrix. Ian, you rock, mate. Let me see. Todd Smith. Greg Walker. S. Bradshaw. Ian, please come south. Okay, you got to head south tomorrow, okay? Head south tomorrow.
Done.
All right, done deal. All right.
I'm away.
Thomas Santiago, hi Eric and Ian and everyone in the chat. Bobby Lopez, hello, all Toronto here. Nice, the Torontonian. I'm coming your way soon. Next month, coming down. I'm looking forward to get down to Toronto again. I love the city. I did live there as a teenager. I quit school. One thing, don't do, kids. Never quit school. I quit school at 15 years old. Moved to Toronto, think I'm going to be a rock star. I worked in a car wash and I worked at Steve's Music. Polishing guitars, thinking I'm going to be a rock star. And I begged to come back home real quick. Don't quit school. Get an education. And look at where I'm at now. I'm hosting a YouTube show. Okay. Tavares Project, another Canadian, saying hello, Ian and Eric. Howie Zowie, my very good friend from London. Got to see him and his better half today. Howie and Scream Girl and the Hizzle. Carlo Santin. And actually, Howie's a cool dude. He's teched with a lot of good guys, too, like Peter Frampton and a bunch of cool dudes. Very nice guy. Let me see here. Bruce, my friend Bruce is joining. Cat Dumpling, Tyler Elliott, Greg Walker. And I'm sorry, folks, if I missed any names. I totally apologize. I'm running it solo tonight because Poison Ivy isn't feeling too well, so I'm running the chat myself. Steve Anderson, I love that song, The Song. Huge. Steve Anderson, Victoria, BC, Canada. Nice, on the West Coast. Love the West Coast. Dean says, you're holding my favorite guitar, man. And see if I missed anything else. Tavares Project, Albatross Drums. How did it get those sounds? One of the greatest albums ever. That's a cool question. Albatross Drums, big drums. Any secrets to that?
Microphones.
Everything.
Drums, microphones.
Yeah.
Compressors, EQs, a lot of outboard gear.
Yeah.
There was very little trickery. It usually is. Like, Garth doesn't like to use samples or any of that shit. It's if it's played well, recorded well, and goes down well, then it's going to be
captured well.
Yeah, it's really like, everybody operating on the same page, going after the same thing, and you should be in good shape.
Yeah, coming out.
There's always weird variables in certain things, like the guitars. Sorry, not the guitars, but the drums just being tuned just so. Sometimes when they're tuned perfectly, it's not quite perfect. Sometimes when they fall a little bit, it's tits, and then you roll, and then it hopefully holds on till the end of the take, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I agree with
but
that.
There's always you're waiting for lightning to strike. But at the end of the day, it's all about feel and the player and the people recording it and what you're using and how you're using it, Yeah. There's no real rules. There's no hard and fast.
Nope.
Well, you got to do it the way that John Bonham did it. Because
Yeah.
no one's ever going to do that. There was John Bonham, and that was it.
That's it. That's right.
After him, there's a lot of great drummers, but the only person that ever sounded like John Bonham was John Bonham.
Even his son doesn't sound like him.
I've tried with some great drummers. But it's like, at the end of the day, Forrest ends up sounding like Forrest. Sekou sounds like Sekou. Chuck sounds like Chuck. But as far as drum sounds go,
it worked.
Eric Rat's got a lot of tricks. Eric Ratz has a lot of tricks, and Garth Richardson's got a lot of tricks. And I've stolen all of them from both. So
there you go. It works.
Maybe I'll sell them.
There you go. Last couple of comments. Hangnell says, EVH Gear TV, please tell A and I said hi. So there you go. Hello from Hangnell. Steve Anderson, you have a great son, Eric. You have done better than most. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I've done better. I do my best, like we all do. And you know what? We'll close out here in a moment. Happy Father's Day to all the dads. Happy Father's Day to Ian. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. This is great. Celebrate with your dads if you can. I don't have the opportunity because my dad has passed on, but I'm not going to let that be a hamper. I'm going to try to have a nice, great day with my son. And it's gonna be a great weekend, period. Vintage Sound says, Ian is so down to earth. Wish you the best. And Ian, I have to tell you, you are one of the most requested guests on the show. It comes up again and again and again, so it's been a real pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. That's quite flattering. That's nice to hear. I get to think of a better way to spend a couple hours on a Friday night.
It's fun. It's fun. And I always say this too. I think you could probably relate to this. I opened for your band one time, and you've opened for many bands over your, from the startings, humble beginnings. I like to say that the show is a warm-up band for people's weekends. If I can warm up the weekend for you, I'm happy about that. That's all I want to do. Just pump you up for the weekend. Go have some beers or coffees or whatever your thing is. So there we go. And I think we really warmed up the weekend. I know Ian did. So I just happen to be the guy who has the vehicle to facilitate it. Ian is a talent. So thank you, everyone. Tavares Project says, love the song Time. Greg Walker, Eric, you host a great YouTube show. Thank you. That's Bruce says, hey, Michael Bishop and Vintage Sounds. Happy Father's Day to all. Happy Father's Day, Eric and Ian from Thomas Santiago. We're going to let everyone go. I apologize if I missed anybody's questions. Take a look at the Big Rec fan group in the description below. There's also links to Big Rec's Facebook page as well down below, so please go follow them, give them a like, and check out some of the videos I posted as well in the description. If you happen to like the little Smoking Baby Van Halen t-shirt I'm wearing, get that at VanHalenStore.com. Link to the description as well, too. And if you want to get Ian's t-shirt, where can we get your t-shirt, Ian?
A t-shirt?
Yeah, your tank top. Whatever. Get that guitar. Where can we get that guitar?
You know how hot it is here today?
I know. It's same thing here too, man.
Out of control. There was a nice light rain earlier, but no, I usually I don't usually wear this kind of thing, but it's I'm even sweating sort of now, and I'm not a big, I don't sweat, but I'm just like, damn,
I'm clammy.
It's kind of my favorite. I love heat and humidity, so.
Well, I like for the guitar playing. I like my hands to be hot.
Yeah, I don't like it too hot because then my calluses can get kind of soft.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's the only bad thing. But I hate when your hands are cold. Your fingers feel like they're logs. I don't like that. But
I like cozy right in the middle.
I'm wearing shorts right now. I never wear shorts on the show, but no one can see anyways.
Me too.
Yeah, I know.
Never wear shorts in general.
No,
unless I'm on a beach.
It's too hot.
I'm wearing shorts right now. Shorts with palm trees on them. I'm not going to show them.
I'm not going to show you mine either because maybe I'm not wearing shorts. We don't know, but that no one's going to know. So that's where we're going to leave the end of the show. Listen, thanks a million. I'm going to say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for taking the time out, 90 minutes with Ian and myself. Very, very grateful, and I'm thrilled to have Ian back on the show. So everyone have a great weekend. I'm going to turn it over to my little man. He's going to say what he's playing, what his name is, and we'll be back again soon. Come back and see me next Friday with Mark Slaughter. We're looking forward to that one. It's going to be a fun show, and we're talking lots of 80s and today and his new tour with our good friend Mike Himmel as well, playing guitar for him. It's going to be great. So, folks, see you real soon. Until next time, cheers.
My name is Eric, and I'm playing left-hand guitar.
Video production services provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs.